All right, so, kind of sitting in here same position the last 3 weeks, and, our team, even though we're not playing the way we want to play for 4 quarters, we're giving ourselves a chance to win at the end of games. And, we've talked about it quite a bit, leading up to this season, that's just not the world you want to live in, where you got to come down to one play, one drive. I think if you live in that world for too long, you're going to get bit. And, for us, there's plenty of opportunities throughout the game for us to capture momentum and to go and to put the game, either put it away or in this case against these guys, go out there and get a lead and have it where at the end of the game you're going to try to protect the lead instead of trying to get it. And, for us offensively, we're getting closer to where we want to be. You look at it and there's 4, 5, 6 drives in there that you say, all right, well, this is what we want it to look like. But it's just not consistent enough. And for us, that's what we got to do. We got to find a way to bottle that and capture that, what we want to be, right? The execution and just playing the play in front of you and just continuing to move down the field and playing with that type of confidence to go out there and move the ball at will. Defensively, we've been dominant for 90% of the game, and it's tough, because you're looking at them saying, guys, got to have a little bit more. But that's part of it. You win as a team. And so for our defense, they're playing really good football, and I'm proud of them for the way they're playing. They're keeping us in games and they're giving us a chance. And, we've got to do a good job. We got to capitalize on the opportunities that we've got. We have to put points on the board when we have an opportunity to do so. And we've got to execute more consistently throughout the middle parts of the game, which I think has been really, truthfully, even the ones that we won, a little bit of a problem for us consistently executing in the middle part of the game. So, we're getting closer to where we want to be. It's not what everybody wants to hear, but it is what it is. And we are a work in progress, and we're going to keep working at it. And we've certainly got a lot of improvement to make. And, the bye week's probably coming at a perfect time for us. We get to go back, focus on some of the fundamentals and details that we need to focus on. And I believe this with everything that I am. It's always about you more so than your opponent. And we've got things that we've got to get fixed. It's not necessarily what someone else is doing. And so we'll get some time to do that. We'll work really hard on it, and we'll get ready to go out there and get back on track, get back to winning.
What are some of the top priorities on the fix-it list?
On the fix-it list, well, it's the technique and just it's the techniques and really just the execution of it. It's got to do it consistently. And I think what we've shown is that when we're down to business and it's got to happen, we can focus in and execute and get it done. So it's the urgency to do it all the time. In practice, you continue to try to put them in situations where, executing matters. It's not just a play. Every play matters. And we've got some formats in practice and things that we have done that's gotten a little bit better that we need to continue to do to make every play important. And then on special teams, you got to work on the fundamentals and the way that you're blocking down the field and doing those things and playing. Got to continue to work on protection, cleaning it up, making sure we're all on the same page. And then on defense, continue to put them in positions where 2-minute drill, end of half, end of game, whatever the case may be, continue to work those things and make us go out there and go execute when it counts. So it's really execution in critical times, and we've got to continue to put them in those positions. And then every position group, I say it all the time, has a fundamentals that you have to continue to inventory. And every player is a little bit different. Every group is different. But the fundamental things that show up, with a bye week, you have a little bit more time to really get back to fundamentals and techniques. And so by position group, that's what we do every time we have a little bit of time. We'll sit down and we'll look at it and say, all right, and in my position group, this is what's showing up, and we need to go back to work and get those things fixed.
Coach, I thought the most impressive part of Saturday's game was the run defense. Once you looked at film, where did you get better, or who maybe played extra well to make the run defense as good as it was Saturday?
Well, I think it's a total effort, obviously. Our linebackers are doing a great job in communication, setting the front, setting the pressures whenever we have them on. Up front, you got guys that are starting to play the way that we thought they could. Andre Landry's getting better. Zion Hill has been just really good all year. Andre Jones. You got more guys playing there, getting Dalvin Hutchinson back. That's a huge shot in the arm for us. Dalvin's played a lot of really good football for us over here, So I think up front, those guys are getting better as it goes on. I think our communication's better. And again, our defensive staff, they put together a really good plan. We had it dialed up. We knew based off of tendencies and things that they did, we put our kids in position to go and have success, and our guys made plays. You know, we're not getting blocked one for one. We're getting off of those one-on-one blocks. We're tearing off, and we're making plays. So it's always a total team effort. You know, on the outside, you got to take away some of the RPO stuff that makes it easy. And then up front, you got to win one-on-ones, and we've been doing that, and more guys have been playing better. You know, getting Nigel McGriff back was big. He was out for a week, you know. So some of those things, just getting the kind of having everybody back where we can continue that rotation, it certainly helps. You know, it helps you throughout the course of the game to play better.
Coach, do you have an update on Chandler's health and also Chris Smith?
Yeah, you know, I mean, so we're getting them evaluated. We got them evaluated after the game. You know, if you had to play today, they'd be out right now. Trying to figure it out. But you know, we're gonna do the best thing we can for those guys, like we always do with every one of our players. We're gonna get them fully evaluated by the doctors. We're gonna have, you know, MRIs, whatever they need to make sure that we've got a picture the doctors can evaluate. Let the doctors evaluate them, and then we're gonna test them throughout the week at practice and see if they can do it. But those guys are gutsy. You know, Chandler knew going into it that he was a little bit banged up. You know, throughout the week he didn't have any issues, but at quarterback, you know, you don't get hit during the week, you know, and you never know how you respond to it. So we were prepared that maybe he'd have a hard time finishing the game, but he wanted to play, and the doctors felt like we could, and he wouldn't get any worse. And, you know, whenever he kind of started feeling like just wasn't himself, we just went ahead and went with Ben and said, well, we're going to take care of him. Chris felt like he had a cramp at the end of the game, maybe a little bit more than that, you know, but hopefully kind of as we get going here, he'll loosen up and he'll be good to go.
And speaking of, excuse my ignorance, because I don't usually cover sports, what was his injury exactly?
I'm not going to go into the specifics of exactly what it is.
Okay. And my next question was related to just health and injuries in general. We saw what had happened with Tua in the NFL as it relates to how they handle things. Can you speak to how you all, in the event of head injuries, how you all handle those protocols, whether it's consulting in-team doctors, external doctors, and whatnot?
Well, I'll tell you this. The first thing I told our team this year at the beginning of the year is that, number one, I am not a doctor, and I will not try to tell somebody whether they should or should not play. That is way out of my area of expertise. So we've got great team doctors. We have a concussion specialist on staff that manages concussions. We have a very solid protocol that anytime someone's suspected of it, they go in a protocol, and if there's any inkling of potential concussion issues, they're held out until you can rule out that it's not. And, you know, I think it's always been a serious thing, but now knowing what we know and knowing the long-term effects of it, if you don't handle that well, then I think, first of all, you're not really don't have the player's best interest at mind. And I think for us, it's always about the player's health first and their safety first. So we have a great group of doctors that I truly trust. And, you know, the coaching side of you, yeah, you want everybody to be able to play. But the human side of it has to say, well, sometimes guys are not ready to play. And I think the doctors do a great job of informing the kids, hey, listen, if you play, it could get worse, you know, or, hey, listen, if you play, it's just if you can manage the pain, it's not going to get any worse. And then the player ultimately has to be able to do it. Concussions, there's really no wiggle room, though. It's no or yes, and there's no in between with that. And there's a whole protocol that you've got to follow to return to play. For us, typically, like a concussion that is suspected and diagnosed, typically you can't get back in a week with our protocol, which is fair. And I think the one thing that I've noticed throughout my career, when you have a concussion, you're more likely to have another one, particularly if you rush it back. So those are the types of things that, man, it's never worth it. I mean, it doesn't matter what type of game or situation. That's never worth it in the long term.
Does the extra 3 or 4 days this week come at a good time for you, not just physically, but sort of like a mental reset?
Yeah, I think it does. You know, I think physically is a big part of it. You know, that was a physical game Saturday. So certainly getting some guys back physically, but mentally just being able to kind of take a deep breath and say, all right, you know, let's look in the mirror here. Let's go look at these things that we need to fix, and let's just go back to work and go back to doing what we do and just executing and just playing cleaner football, you know, I think is a thing. You can deal with losing when you play well and you get beat. it's really, really hard, even though I really have a lot of respect for the teams that we've played, and particularly South Alabama. It's just hard when you don't feel like you're playing the way that you're supposed to play. And every week, all I ever want is for our kids to go out there and go play good football. I want them to go play the best they can play. And wherever that ends up being at the end on the scoreboard, I can live with all that. Because, as disappointed as everybody else is, no one's more disappointed than the players. They don't work their tails off all year to go out there and not play well. So that's just kind of part of it. I do think it's at a good time, though. And let's recenter. Let's go back. Let's go figure out who we are right here, man, and let's just get back to playing our type of football.
Coach, you talked about the extra break, the extra couple of days to get players back physically. What's the schedule like over the next couple of days to get those guys back healthy?
So yesterday, we gave them off yesterday, obviously treatment, things like that. Today will be a Sunday schedule for us, which is pretty light physically. So they'll have 2 good days that they'll be able to kind of get back a little bit. Tomorrow will be an us practice, about let's get us doing the things that we need to do. It'll be 1s-on-1s, 2s-on-2s, things like that, competition periods, trying to make it, put them in some situations where they got to go compete. And then basically Wednesday, we'll get back to kind of, all right, it's Sunday for Marshall week, kind of moving forward a little bit. So it gives you a little bit of time, and certainly they'll have the Monday off, which will be Thursday, physically again. So they'll have some time off. We'll build in a walkthrough day in there at some point where, it'll be practice, kind of slow it down a little bit. But just we're doing some things. We're trying to, we're not in the position where we can just say, all right, well, we're good where we're at. We gotta practice, and we gotta get better. But you're always trying to balance that line between, the coach where you're, thumb on them, let's go, and really doing what's best for them and what's healthiest for them right here in the middle of the year.
Coach, have you had a chance to take a look at Marshall this year? And if you had, what are some of the things that kind of stood out when you saw them?
I have not watched much of Marshall yet. We're focusing on us right now and trying to get ourselves where we need to be, and we'll start working on Marshall, tomorrow, where you got some extra days. Tony Dungy has a book, and he wrote in the book, and I remember this quote stuck out to me a long time ago. He said he truly believes that 3 days is enough time to game plan for any game, including the Super Bowl. And, it goes into detail about how sometimes you try a little bit too hard with too much time, and you can overdo it and you can kind of screw it up a little bit. So I subscribe to that. For us, it's about really detailing the things that we've got to get corrected. And we'll have some extra days to get ready for Marshall, which will be good. Allow us to spread out our time that we're meeting, and it won't maybe be burning the midnight oil all night to try to get it all done. You'll be able to spread it out a little bit, which I think will be better for us in the long run as well.
Coach, when you reviewed the tape, are you comfortable, or would you have changed anything as far as when you called the timeouts and there'd be 42 seconds left at the end of the touchdown drive y'all had? Were you comfortable with all that?
Yeah, I was asked about that this morning too. Truthfully, the way we're playing offense, I felt like we needed to try to find a way to go score. We hadn't exactly been lighting the world on fire. So for us, and particularly when you get down to the goal line and we're in big personnel, right? We're in big people and 14 personnel. You can go from plenty of time to out of time pretty quickly, whenever you're in that situation. I honestly felt like the momentum, the pendulum had swung in the way we were playing defense, and then the last couple drives we had offensively, that things had swung in our favor. And I felt like we went down and scored, we'd have a chance to get a stop, get the ball back, get Eric a chance to return a punt, and Kenny just hit a 51-yard field goal, go try to get a chance to win the game. So, yeah, I am comfortable with it. Hindsight is always easy to say, well, you should have ran more time out and done those things. And if you live in that world, I just think that you'll eat yourself alive, And to me, with all the information we had at the time, I felt like it was the right decision to make. If you get sacked right there after you let it run down and burn a timeout, then you're kicking yourself, in the rear end. So, I just don't think you can live in that world. We kind of talked about the third down, decline the penalty. The information that I had and the way that I felt about the way the game was going, I just felt really good about where we were and having a chance to win the thing. And you got to give those guys some credit too. They made 2 great catches on that last drive. I'm talking about contested catches that we're all over them. Their running back, who we kept bottled up, made a great run. I really believe they were trying to run the clock out. I think they were trying to punt the ball with as little time as possible. And the kid made a great play. So, you got to give credit where it's due sometimes. Certainly if I had a crystal ball, I'd go back. Yeah, I'd run that thing all the way down. I would back the penalty up, wouldn't call the timeouts. But in the game, in the moment, with where we were, with the information I had, I felt like it was the right decision and, still do.
Anything else for Coach?
The last 12 minutes of the game, obviously, you go down and get the 3 points, and then you come back and get the game-tying touchdown. Up front, along the line, what were the things that you guys really liked that group did in the last 12 minutes of the game that you mentioned it before, bottling that up? What can you guys bottle up from the last 12 minutes?
Communicated really well. We got hat position where it needed to be, and the strain and the effort was good. I thought our group up front played a lot better in that game than we had all year, and I really believe that was the best front we've played all year. I mean, they have really good football players up front and at linebacker. But at the end of the game, it was the communication and understanding the plugs and the movements. And I mean, we were really good with our hat position and our strain to finish. And, we got them covered up really good. And I thought Saturday we were able to get our backs started a little bit and get their shoulders square downhill and get them running. And, that group did a really good job. I thought the protection was great at the end of the game. Throughout the middle of the game, you had a couple penalties that kind of kill you, some holding penalties that, some of them you agree with, some of them you don't agree with. That doesn't really matter. We had a couple snap issues there that kind of you just like, man, those are the things that you got to eliminate. And those positives, right? That communication, the hat placement, the strain, the effort, the communication, all those things that happen when it's critical. That's the things that you got to bottle up. And you gotta feel like that maybe is the momentum that you need going forward right there.
Coach, I know you said you hadn't looked much at Marshall, but it's a unique situation playing him in the bowl game and now turn around and playing him as a conference opponent. Do you ever find yourself looking back at those first couple of weeks last December, all the things that were going on, all the positives in your life too? Do you ever find yourself going back and looking at that and thinking, here we are, we're playing the same team?
Haven't thought much about it because it hadn't been a whole lot of that recently. It's kind of you kind of flip that thing on its head right there. No, I haven't thought a whole lot about it. I think our staff does a really good job. Just kind of it's like Groundhog's Day. You just kind of turn the page and you go to the next thing. And that those couple weeks in December were hectic to say the least. It gets announced on Sunday. Well, Sunday night, we had to put together a recruiting plan where we're going that week because it was contact period. So then you're on the road. You're trying to figure out how you're going to put all these coaches out on the road, where they're going. We had some coaches that had left, so then we're elevating people to put them on the road. And then you got to find game plan days within that week. So I was on the road back in game planning. We had people that were in. We'd schedule them to come in to do some of their game plan areas. So our staff does a really good job of working together and coming up with a plan that we need to do. And, last year was really a whirlwind, truthfully, going into that game, just kind of all the things that were going on between the recruiting, official visits, signing day, bowl game against a really good football team. So hadn't really thought much about it yet. We're living in the moment right now and kind of where we're at, and certainly it's not where we want to be right now. But I believe that throughout the adversity that you face, that's when you really grow, and that's when you really see what it's all about, and that's when you really hit it head on. And you find out a lot about yourself and about the people that you work with in those moments. And for us, right now, we're in it, man. We're right in the middle of it. And you got to continue to push, and you got to continue to work on the things that you believe in. And I don't believe things happen by accident. I don't. I believe that this is all part of the plan. And I told the team after the game, you never know why. Sometimes when you work really hard, it doesn't work. You never know why when you do things the right way, it doesn't show up in the results that you want. But I know this, and I believe this. I remember in 2005, we were 1-5, and we were the worst team in America. We were terrible players. We had terrible coaches. The whole thing was, it was a disaster. And we lost a couple games that we should have won. FAU, Arkansas State, for those of you guys that have been here for a long time. But we kept getting closer. And all of a sudden it was just kind of like, man, we just kept working harder. We kept practicing better. And then all of a sudden it just clicked. And we started finding ways to win football games. And that was one of the most fun football seasons I've ever been a part of because, our starting quarterback gets hurt. Well, now it's over. And we came out of it, man, and that season ended up being really special. And I don't believe that if it's easy, when things are really easy, you don't grow and you don't get better and you don't change. The adversity is going to make us who we are. And this team's got grit. This team's got character. And so do these coaches. So we're living in the moment right now. We're going to embrace the adversity, and we'll come out of it the way we want to.
Coach, after looking back at the film, in your mind, what do you feel like is the number one thing that the offense has to do in order to click as well? Do you think it's the execution, the rhythm of the offense? What do you think that's going to have to be?
Yeah, we just got to execute. We just got to execute. We're going to continue to mix it up. We're going to throw it. We're going to run it. We're going to do both. We got to be two-dimensional. And we just got to execute when it's there. We've got to make the throws when you're supposed to make them, make the catches when you're supposed to make them, pick up protection when you're supposed to. It's just got to go execute. I mean, we're not changing what we're doing whenever we put drives together that are going good. We're just playing a little bit better, and we're executing a little bit better in the moment. And that's what we got to do. Got to bottle that up, and we got to do it more consistently.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.